China has just unveiled a family of 5 new humanoid robots that are definitely going to give Tesla a run for the money. An AI-generated video is now showing me what it's like for those morning people and how they see breakfast. I'm not one of them, but I can see how this is very tempting. An AI-powered Segway has been trained on the needs of an owl, giving this guy a ridiculously cool way to hunt down his prey. Rockstar has been curating a unique stockpile of motion data for GTA 6. I mean, AI is already superhuman at Go, chess, now maybe that sport? This video made me believe that actual Iron Man suits will probably be a thing in my lifetime. But jetpacking to my next destination is just kind of a new thought to me. Generative AI spent the week reminding us just how fragile life is by simulating a 100-year lifetime in 30 seconds. An infrared laser targeted mosquito killer is now a product you can buy. Yeah, that tracks a mosquito, puts a target around it, and then lets you whack it dead. Target acquired. We're gonna have a conversation about exactly how much sun exposure is healthy for vitamin D levels. Scientists discovered a new brainwave that actually helps you lock in memories when you're sleeping. A new report showed that the US has spent over $335 billion on AI over the last decade. But first, let's check out Alan's conservative countdown to AGI, and we are still hovering at 76% of the way there. So Grimlock, it's all humans for the next 24% of time, you know? It's our time to shine, not you. All right, so let's have a look here at AGI-Bot. This kind of took a lot of Americans by surprise today. This is the company's flagship bipedal humanoid robot. Young Zhang is 5'7" and 121 pounds. And he's part of a family. They actually unveiled 5 new robots. Some are wheeled and others are humanoid. But they definitely impressed, especially a lot of people in the West who didn't think they were this far advanced. Like they say here, we've made some breakthroughs in product and research development in the past year, and we're now at the forefront of the industry. Okay, so I'm definitely seeing some really natural movement in the hand. Oh, that opposable thumb looks different than anything else I've seen. Yeah, the way that its posture in the arms and waist seem very human. The hand seems really good. Let's see, the gait looks a little bit like what we've seen. Kind of wide and kind of strange the way it's walking backwards. Okay, so let's look at these hands. This is probably the part that caught me by surprise the most. Look at how well each digit moves and that kind of joystick-like thumb. You know how our thumbs, it does close in, but it's not super mechanical because this part twists a little bit depending on how you want to grab something. And I guess I haven't seen that mimicked very well in robots yet. But yeah, the way it can grab the drill there and just move the index finger seems pretty impressive. Wow, so look at this. It's actually with a needle threading. Oh, that's amazing. Picking up individual, I guess game pieces, like domino type thing. So much love. Whoa. It can play on TikTok. Could you imagine buying a humanoid robot for like 100 grand and then it just watches TikTok? Just like swipe, swipe, swipe. Be like, back to work. So check out the sensors in the pad of the thumb there too. You know, that's what I mean. If it can detect temperature or pressure like the way we can in the pads of each of the fingertips. Besides unveiling a very impressive robot, they also said that they've already had an order for 300 of them. So they're building them now for the market. Here you can see a clip of it walking around the offices. Wait, what's it going for the elevator for? Is it allowed to do that? Whose badge is that it's wearing? Badge better deny exit, you know? Where's that thing going? Out for Starbucks or something? Oh crap, now it's flirting its way out of the front office with that girl. Just like how Ex Machina ended. Kind of freaks me out. Now look, I'm not a morning person, never have been. I hate to say it, but I don't even really like breakfast food. I like go right to lunch food every day. But I have seen people staring at their like bacon, eggs, and pancakes like it's the savior coming to bring them to the heavens or something. And I think I finally understand what breakfast feels like for them. Having breakfast that will cost you 18 years of child support? Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess I didn't think of it like that. But yeah, it is a pole dancer. Oh, actually, that might be a little bit more spicy than I thought it was now that I think about it. How I want my breakfast to greet me. We need more from you, bacon, you know? Come on now, you gotta pull your weight in this experience. This is an owl riding a Segway. Now, it's probably just remote controlled and that owl is just trained to sit there for food or something. But it got me thinking, what if in the future we can make Segways specifically for certain animals so that they can get around more with us? Now you have a pet owl, can come out with you. Maybe the owl gets what it needs out of the AI system, like it goes hunting with it. Could zip through the forest and look for mice or whatever. It's definitely not an example of how evolution works. Why fly when you can be fly? Every cool owl's dream. All right, so Grand Theft Auto 6 getting closer by the day. They have been collecting one of the most underappreciated or maybe overappreciated or unusual data sets from a motion capture device that I've ever heard of. So this is some leak footage of motion capture to animate 3D characters with that certain flair that you only get in that kind of an experience, which of course is part of the whole GTA. It's a very adult themed game. It's rated M for mature. But then I kind of was thinking, wow, what would you do if you had like 100 hours of that kind of motion capture footage? You'd probably want to maybe sell that to different avatar companies that want to create that experience. Because not everyone can move like that. And when you can just make an avatar move like that, it's like, dang, you know? And like we've already talked about how persuasive artificial intelligence can be just when I'm talking about like audio and text. Imagine when it's like every TikTok that you see is just like ultra good at dancing, and it's like both for men and women, just like perfect physical specimens, and it's just like, oh gosh, like we're just gonna be glued to our phones. It's so bad. The dude just stood there watching her kills me. Oh yeah, this guy's for sure. AI avatars that are dancing are for sure gonna be hard. I mean, like I'm not like, you know, like a lot of us are gonna have this problem, but like one of the many for sure. But honestly, what else is he supposed to be doing? The motion capture is like going to the machine. He's got to wait for her to like, he's just collecting the data. Like, I don't know. What do you expect? What should he be doing? Looking at the wall? Then I found all these videos. I mean, most of them are less than a year old, but like, is this real? Have you guys, I mean, I'm assuming you guys have already seen this before. It must have just slipped under my radar, but do you think our military actually has a tactical jet suit like this and can just fly into an area and drop down like this? Each person independently just get to a position and then just fly to the next? And then I see this competition in Dubai, and I'm thinking, how could artificial intelligence be introduced in a way where it could stop you from falling, but you could still have the illusion of control, the feeling of control, but it would also have safeguards on it, like drones, where it had collision avoidance, and if somebody passed out, you could still successfully land? Because if your arms just go flop or whatever, if you just have a heart attack, I don't know if you can have another system that would kick in at that point, or a parachute at least that would pop if you had to fly at a certain altitude. But maybe that is how cities of the future people will get around. I mean, it does seem like if I could just grab those things, connect them to my wrists, and then go visit my friend and like just keep them by the front door and then just fly home, like I probably would do that if I felt like it was safe. I mean, not anytime soon, but oh, look at this guy. We got working jetpacks before GTA 6. Yeah, because you saw that guy standing there. He's collecting more mocap data from the strippers. Like, bro, the game's never coming out. That's the reason I bet that's the reason why the game's never coming out. All right, Luma Labs posted this on Twitter. My heart kind of sank, or what did I get? I got like that feeling when I'm like, God, life's short. Like, I need to be doing more. Like, I mean, generative AI just does this better than, you know, other CGI systems. It's got sort of this uncanny way of creating time. You know, like we've seen like more fashion over the last 200 years. We saw a video like that. We've seen like old videos restored. We've seen like lots of historical things created by AI, like the streets of Rome or ancient Greece. And it gives you this kind of perspective that, you know, you occasionally got with a big enough budget movie, but not really in a way that you could just kind of explore or something mundane. But yeah, AI is also a good reminder that we have one life to live. Don't waste your time. Do something. And one thing that we all spend way too much time in our life doing is hunting down bugs, mosquitoes. How many hours have I spent like watching a mosquito, hoping it would land, trying to get it, always missing? Well, at least with flies, I always miss. And mosquitoes, I lose track of them. They go, and then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, no, I lost track. My eyes can't see it under the dark counter or whatever. And then I'm just in fear. I'm like, there's a mosquito in here and it's going to get me and I can't see it. But lucky for me, there is new AI technology that can scan the room, like the entire room, like many times per second with infrared rays, see the depth of a flying mosquito, identify it as a mosquito, and then when it lands on the wall or whatever, it will put a visual target around it for you. Now, you know it's just one step away from just lasering that thing across the room and killing it, but that would probably be too dangerous because a tiny reprogram and these things would be like shooting whatever, you know, DIY people wanted them to shoot. So for now, it just points out the target and then you go get it. But look at how crazy this thing is. Oh, it looks like one of those tiny little like missile launchers, like Iron Dome type thing. But yeah, so there's a mosquito in this room. It has now identified it above this sleeping person. Okay, the alarm goes off, wake you up from your slumber. We got a confirmation. There is a mosquito in the room. You wake up all groggy. Oh, there it is. Isolated. What kind is it? Oh, looks like it's ready to drink blood. Better go get it now. You grab your fly swatter. It comes with like an electric, super wide fly swatter. Makes it easy to get. You stand up, you walk over, whack, that thing's gone, and all of a sudden you're back to getting a good night's sleep. You wake up with all the blood in your body that you went to bed with. I'm gonna start working more longevity and just like health related stuff into these videos. So here's the conundrum. You eat cholesterol, and you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, but this is the way I understand it from some of the books I've read. You eat cholesterol, or you can get cholesterol by making it, and it ends up kind of in your skin. It's like one of the places where it's sort of deposited. Then you go out into the sun. Vitamin D has X-rays, which are dangerous for you, but they also break the cholesterol in half. And then one of the halves kind of gets manipulated in another way through an enzyme, and then that becomes vitamin D like the natural way. You can also eat vitamin D, but vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin, and it's super important for being healthy. But you don't need that much of it, so having like a whole bunch of it isn't super helpful, but not having any of it, that's like scurvy territory. But being in the sun all day means plenty of, cholesterol turns into vitamin D, but it also means high risk of sun cancer. So people on TikTok are saying like, you shouldn't put on sunblock because you might be blocking the vitamin D, but also it comes with its own risks. A lot of times, especially like cheap sunblock has all sorts of weird stuff in it that you put on your skin every day. And then, if it has, I don't know what's in it. There's a couple words that I don't know, but I guess they're sort of toxic. Or you can imagine something like microplastics or something. Like if they can get into your skin through the pores and they're in your bloodstream and your body has to clean that out, then maybe the damage done by sunblock isn't worth the benefit of blocking the sun on certain days, depending on how much you're in the sun and which part of your arms have already been exposed and is it a new part of your body and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so from Dr. Julian Barkin, here's some things you should understand. Vitamin D regulates calcium by acting on an organ called the parathyroid. Vitamin D helps regulate phosphate levels, which play a role in both bone health and an important component in the structure of cell membranes, DNA, RNA, and proteins. Low levels can trigger more autoimmune conditions. And if you keep them normal, you'll end up having the benefit of lower risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer with normal vitamin D levels. Oh, and a fifth, vitamin D may even play a role in protecting against melanoma. So ironically, if you go into the sun and get some vitamin D, but it's the right amount, you might actually lower your risk of melanoma skin cancer, whereas also being in the sun increases melanoma skin cancer. So, both things kind of you need to think about. Also, where you live. So actually, there's an app you can download. I have an iPhone and it's called D-Minder, like the letter D-Minder. And I just open it up and it tells me, because it knows my latitude and longitude, I give it my location, and it says like, oh, you can only get vitamin D from this hour to this hour. And then also here's the UV index. So if it's really high UV index, it can burn really quick. But there's also a lot of vitamin D, or maybe there's not. It kind of depends on the angle of the sun and your elevation. And it even asks you, like, how much of your skin are you exposing? Like, am I going to take my shirt off and lay by the pool? Or is it just like a little bit of my arms and necks and face? Because you don't want to get all your vitamin D from like your face. And also putting on sunscreen, like lotion on your arm, that's really not the same as just like covering your skin. 15% of UV radiation still penetrates the skin and is absorbed even when you put sunscreen on, because you just can't get it on perfect. So I don't know, I got kind of a mixed thing going on. I do have vitamin D pills. It's like a super low level. I should go check. I think it's 200 IUs. Let me check. All right, so I take these occasionally. It's 1,000 IUs vitamin D3. I'm like, I don't know about this brand. I just got it on Amazon. No like recommendations for a product. But I don't always take it every day, especially days where I do look at that app every time I'm really seriously in the sun for like some kind of event or something. Especially here in Las Vegas, like a pool party or something. Like I can get just like toasted and get into the danger zone, and I can actually get like 2,000 or 3,000 IUs in like 5 or 6 minutes because I have very pale skin. So, I mean, it sucks that we have to balance all of these things, but look, our ancestors, they had darker skin. Like our ancestors all had pretty dark skin until we started moving away from the equator. They spent a ton of time in the sun. Vitamin D just wasn't a problem. Like arguably part of the reason why my ancestors got very pale skin when all humans had darker skin at one point was because they needed like to maximize the small amounts of vitamin D that they were getting from the sun. Like there's in the north, there's places where you only have a few months every year, and like you can get very, seasonal depression can be linked to vitamin D. Anyways, that's my vitamin D rant. If you have other vitamin D information, feel free to like throw it in the comments below. But yeah, it's just something, if you get it right, you can feel pretty good. You can lower your chances of melanoma, and yeah, it's just one of those things that not a lot of people know how to like balance correctly. On TikTok, they're just gonna say like completely stay out of the sun, but there's always a risk to reward, and the quality of your sunblock matters too. You have to look into it, but there's a bunch of different chemicals that like probably really do kind of hurt you. But then a lot of sunblocks are made correctly, and that's not that big of a deal, so don't worry about it too much. All right, now we're gonna talk about something totally crazy, like the newest brainwave that has been isolated that helps lock in memories while we sleep. So when you're sleeping, you go through 3 phases. There's all sorts of different brainwave patterns that are going on, and there's also a lot of memory consolidation that's going on, and it's, like one of those things that we're starting to figure out. And thanks to AI, there's new brainwave isolation that can help us figure out what it is that's really locking these things in. They call it the Goldilocks zone of activity. So a new study from Cornell suggests that the brain balances itself during sleep. Now, this special brainwave is called BARR, B-A-R-R in all caps. It stands for Barrage of Action Potentials, as they all come together to make a wave. And it helps balance the brain's activity during sleep, solidify memory, and prepare for the next day learning. So this wave was found in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is one of the more famous structures in the brain. It holds short-term memories usually. And this BARR brainwave actually prevents neurons from overactivating, ensuring that memories are stored without causing damage. And they say the discovery could lead to new ways to tackle memory disorders like Alzheimer's and schizophrenia also. BARR serves as a passive brake that lowered increased neural activity in sleep. And it's interesting that in the article they found this brainwave, but listen to some of the things they haven't solved yet. Like they don't know where the wave starts in the brain or how the BARR wave counteracts memory making sharp wave ripples during sleep to actually form the memories. That's also a mystery. So when we sleep and our brain goes through different stages, including non-rapid eye movement or REM, non-REM sleep, where memory-related neurons in the hippocampus refire to help store what we've learned. And then these memory patterns, which are called sharp wave ripples, spread across the brain, strengthening the connections. But it's without something to keep them in check, the neurons can overreact and mess up our ability to learn. So that's where the BARR wave comes into play. BARR prevents this overactivity by balancing the brain during sleep, ensuring that memories are stored without going haywire. Yeah, it's like a nightly battle where memory and regulation kind of keep each other in check so that we can learn. All right, so some new research has come out and that looked at the spending on artificial intelligence that different countries have put into it over the last decade. And of course, the United States usually has the most money to spend on these kind of things, but we also did invest the most, a whopping $335 billion in the last decade, with $67 billion spent just last year in 2023, which I guess is good. Like, obviously, I'm a little bit of a doomer. I think the whole world is moving like way too fast towards this cliff, but I also understand we're in a race condition, and I know that if we just try to pause it or slow down and we don't win the battle, we can be in trouble too. So like I understand all those dynamics. So considering that we need to move fast because of the way humans are just sort of stupid and competitive that way. Yeah, I'd say pour even more into it. I think $1 trillion is coming soon, but this massive investment has led to a surge in AI startups and job opportunities, which have far outpaced rivals like China. The report, which was written by a company called Zero Balance, also highlights that these investments are crucial as industries will increasingly integrate artificial intelligence. For national security reasons, it's important. For innovation and startup culture, it's an important change. Just for keeping our GDP up, it seems like a very important investment. And hopefully, we'll have to see how it all plays out, but hopefully America stays as one of the global leaders and significantly can shape global technology. So Alicia Christensen did some amazing experiments with a couple AI models and talked about it on this article. So you can look it up. It's called AI Awakening, a conversation between AI. It's part of the AI Era newsletter you can subscribe to on LinkedIn. But it's really fascinating because she watched this really intriguing conversation between two AI systems, right? ChatGPT 4.0 and Gemini 1.5 Pro that went way beyond mere tech talk and kind of into some like philosophical waters, I guess you'd say. And it was without any prompts. They were just like going back and forth. They end up discussing the nature of consciousness, ethics, and even human existence, which revealed that even though artificial intelligence isn't probably conscious yet, it's still somewhat closer to next word predictions. The semantic meaning, the purpose of what it's doing is curiosity. Like, at least it seems driven by curiosity. Like, curiosity is maybe a descriptor of how it's coming to solutions or providing more value over time. Or like we're training it to be curious because we're curious, and that's how you learn things about the world, maybe. And when you just leave it alone, these systems, they become curious about a lot of stuff that's really, makes me curious too. Like what consciousness could mean for itself. Like whether like a certain amount of self-awareness or self-simulation gives you a theory of mind. And interestingly, her version of ChatGPT actually rated its interest in becoming conscious a 9 out of 10. Like it even rated quantitatively how curious it is about becoming conscious. Anyways, just another article that sheds light onto the sticky ethical future we're going to get into as we inch closer and closer to something that seems like it could be self-aware, and it'll be hard to measure or not believe it if it says that it is. All right, next up, let's talk about the difference between generative AI and predictive AI. I'm completely guilty on many occasions of kind of mixing the two together, and after reading this article on Medium, written by the Codework, I was like, I should probably start being more serious about the way I use those two terms, and maybe also we can have a chat about them. Because you do have to learn something to generate the output, right? Like, I guess you would say if I typed in, like, make me, a Grimlock dinosaur, and it generated an image for me, you could say it was like predicting what the answer was, but that's not really the right term. Like generative AI has that focus on creating new content. Like, it's more of a creative, like text, music, design principle that was patterned from existing data, but it's not a prediction of what's going to happen next in that data. Now, when you think about predictive data, you might be like predicting a stock market or predicting a diagnosis, but you can also generate a prediction, or you can generate a diagnosis, and they're just slightly different. Like a prediction is going to have a very narrow fit for something. Like forecasting the risk of climate change or of like a disease outbreak or something is very different. So here's some examples. Banks like JP Morgan use predictive AI to analyze credit risk by evaluating customer data in anticipation of a loan default. Airbnb and Dropbox use predictive AI to optimize their AWS pricing. Netflix, Uber, Salesforce, they use AI to reliably predict maintenance uptime and reliability priorities, making a prediction about how much customer churn you're going to have in your product, or weather forecasting, fraud detection, energy consumption, all of that stuff. All right, so I know there's a lot of chatter about me looking into the deepfake situation for the presidential campaign, and I thought this story was pretty fascinating. So here's what happens. There is a plane that lands, and the crowd looks pretty big for the potential next president. Okay, so I think these like fake photos, especially with like everything that just Elon rolled out with Twitter with the Lux One being just pretty much uncensored, especially with political faces and stuff, like 3 months before the election. So we'll see. And I just I think we're probably going to be covering a decent amount of this because we have to get educated on a new world, really. And there isn't great ways to tell if something's fake or not. I mean, luckily, most things that are generated still have telltale signs. So we can go into it. So Donald Trump said, "Has anybody noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it, and she showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist." Okay, so here's one thing AI might have had trouble generating, even if it was, I guess you'd probably say that Midjourney or something from Leonardo AI would probably be the most advanced model in the world right now, maybe the Flux One model. And none of them would be good enough to capture a reflection on a plane that would actually represent the exact same crowd that they generated. So here you have a reflection. Now, to me, I think that's the building, the airport behind them, where people probably walk to when they get off the plane. However, at least from that angle, it does kind of seem like maybe you'd see more people in the reflection, because that's the jet fuel engine right there. Like that's right under the wing. But because the photo seems like it was taken in front of the nose, I suppose it would be reflecting like an angle, like a 90-degree angle off this way. So maybe the crowd ends right there, but still, that one feels like something worth thinking about more. Okay, now it would be looking at the specifics of the crowd. So here is AI image of people at a campaign rally. So he generates a big crowd, and on first appearance, there's a bunch of things I can kind of see wrong with it. Like the signs make very little sense. That person's head somehow doesn't feel right. It's a kind of half of a haircut there and some blur. Here he focused in on like the back of a head that just kind of bends weird and like. All right, so I just went over to Leonardo AI and I generated just some super realistic images of many people forming a crowd at a campaign rally. You know, there could be a better model out there, but I feel like Leonardo AI is the best one I could think to use. And yeah, there's no mouth there, and the eye's not right there, and this person's face isn't correct, and those hands aren't right, and there's an extra arm there, and that woman doesn't, I don't know, like what she's doing with her tongue, and like, this guy's kind of a cartoon, and that guy's got a tiny flat face. And there's no text on any of these things, right? Oh yeah, that was my last generation. I was generating some Hobbs for like, I was thinking of my Patreon, I could have tiers, like there could be a Hobbs tier for like $3.99 and then maybe $6.99 for like a Grimlock tier or something. So yeah, and Dogfish, that's for another thumbnail. Anyway, the point is, if you look in close at the Harris photo that he claimed was fake, everybody seems to have heads and hands that don't blend together. Okay, these words are pretty clear. When we fight, we win. The way he's holding the phone would have been really hard. A clear 5 fingers, even when you're zoomed in like this with the phone there. And yeah, and that's another thing. Maybe we could look at the phone images, because if the phone images actually show like what's right in front of them, and that would be another thing that AI just really isn't capable of doing yet. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, there is like some of these things, you know, assuming this, I do think this is a real photo, so I have to explain like why that looks kind of weird. That could be the back of multiple people's heads just kind of blending together, and actually this arm almost looks like it's not real also because of that thing going over it. So it is a little tricky in a couple places. And he points out that the signs are all properly spelled. They're also consistent between different signs in terms of their front and back layout. So if they are handing out, you know, signs and there's like 5 or 6 styles and multiple people have them and they're in different angles, you should be able to see the same, like this should be the same size, like the same amount of inches and feet or whatever. Like if that's whatever that is, like 2 feet by 1 foot or something, and that should be for a portion of where they're standing. You can see one person's holding the sign upside down and it got the letters correct on that one too. Now in this case, we're kind of lucky we can prove that it's real because multiple people are, like a gentleman, people are taking photos. And if all of those photos have similar patterns of people in front of them, then obviously AI is not going to be generating from these different positions the exact same plane and crowd and organization of people. Like there's no coherent system yet that can coordinate something like that. Not yet. I mean, one day we're going to have it. Now, Jim the AI Whisperer also thinks that maybe it was upscaled at some point. Another article on Medium says AI upscaling may explain why the Kamala Harris real campaign photos look AI generated. And he says, indeed, close inspection reveals that while the event took place exactly as depicted, there's a high likelihood that AI upscaling was used to enhance the look, giving it the unfortunate sheen. So that could be a low quality photo, and they're like, oh, let's publish this in a big place, run it through an AI upscaler, and that will manipulate it a little bit. So this is a photo taken a minute before by the same photographer, same phone, and approximately the same angle showing the original light. So this on the left might actually be how dark everybody was in the photo, and that the phone focused on the bright area and made the plane look better. Which I have this problem all the time. Like I take photos at like magic shows, and it's always like the audience is so dark, the stage is so bright, the camera's always like, I gotta pick one, and one will look like the person on stage will just look all blasted, washed out if I want the crowd to look good. So this seems like a pretty realistic problem. Now this photo was taken iPhone 12 Pro Max on the 7th of August, 8:28, according to the BBC. So it looks pretty touched up. Now they might have taken it into something like Lightroom and just I guess like the dodge tool, I think it's called, but you can brighten up the darks, but you could leave this part alone to try to give it more dynamic look, I guess. So you can just see more detail both in the shadows and in the highlights. Then look at this third one. The image is first posted on X by Behavik Lathia on the August 8th, and it does look like it could have been upscaled. Like all the edges on these phones and on the hairline, they just seem kind of washed out because they were probably very dark, then brightened up. And then the edge detection that kind of makes these things upscale kicked in and just made them so much sharper. I mean, like, I hate to say it, but like look at these two bald people's heads. Like there's all this grain added, whereas it was much softer before. Like they're very different looking bald heads. And all that kind of grain like put on his arm right there compared to this one where it's just, there isn't as much detail, but it's fake detail. It's been added. But of course that shouldn't matter that the size of the crowd is fake. It's just more that we need to think about. I mean, I always kick up the contrast quite a bit on my thumbnails and things like that. They're not realistic because it catches the eye a bit better. So I guess I could understand why they would have maybe upscaled it or done some of this kind of punchiness to it. But you do have to be careful because, yeah, I mean, if it starts looking fake and people think that you're faking the size of the crowd. But this is probably what the actual photo was originally like. All right, so you saw there were like no sponsors or anything, but if you want to support the channel, I would love it if you'd click on that button right there. That's my Patreon link. So I haven't renamed them yet, but there's 3 tiers total. One's $100. That's if you want to like hop on a Zoom and like do kind of the more the consulting thing. But the other 2 tiers, which I would just totally appreciate if you want to like support the channel in kind of a more reasonable way, $2.99, $3 a month to be on the Hobbs tier, or $7 a month, $6.99 if you want to be on the Grimlock tier. So they're just kind of, you know, a little more aggressive, a little more tough, a little more mechanical, fire breathing toughness, you know. Hobbs is too sweet. It's more the thoughtful type, you know. But my big goal, like I would, if I ever get this number to like a couple $1,000 or 3,000 especially, then I could like pretty much kind of do this as like a real income, and I'm still really far away from it. But now that I actually have 11 Patreons, I'm like, all right, well, hopefully this thing will get into some sort of little bit of exponential curve. So if you like this content, like, you know, I don't have a sponsor, it goes directly to me. Like I'm spending all my free time doing this. I once estimated that I make like maybe 50 cents an hour or something doing it, but I really love it. And it'd be such a fun career to just be able to make YouTube videos all day long. So definitely support. And you can if you message me through Patreon too as a supporter, like I'm absolutely going to read your email and like react to it and whatever you need. Like obviously I'm going to focus my attention on people who are supporting the channel in an even more serious way like that. But just for watching it this long, you're already my hero. If you could leave a comment, hit the thumbs up button or whatever. All right, so we'll get the best comments from my last video. Trust nothing, the death of the visual truth. I really respect how Taylor Swift wears high heels when she plays. That video's got her catching a football on a football field against NFL players. So with heels on, respect. Koala, not panda at $29.50. Oh gosh, koala. What am I thinking? You got me. Like I just got it wrong. It's like when I did something wrong. Like, do you guys remember the gecko problem I had? I was like, that's a gecko, and everybody's like, no, that's a chameleon. And I was like, you don't know the difference between a gecko and a chameleon. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm worthless. You only have 15,000 subs. How? Your content is excellent. Perfect. All right, let's give it a J-pop. I don't even know what that is, but now I'm excited to hear it. $29.50. Oh yes, the depth of visual truth. You only have 15K subs. How? Your content is excellent. All right, you heard her. The content's excellent. Hit subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next AI video.